Hello everyone. Today I want to share the storyboard about the tombstone for the firefly. Hotaru no Haka. Hotaru is fireflies. Haka is a tombstone. So this is the first Studio Ghibli I saw. It was released on a VHS in the early 90s, and I had seen a few images on magazines, and so I looked at this one and I cried. I looked for my birthday with my father and one cousin, and after they left, I hold my tears until they left, and then I cried. I was like, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And yeah, this is the strongest Studio Ghibli, no question. And I want to share this today because I think the world is is not doing well. So I want to look at this book so that we can reflect on the effects of wars on population, on civilians, on people who are not deciding like the politicians and the military. And this book is also very nice because the quality of the drawing of the storyboard is pretty high for storyboarding. This is basically like the pencil drawing level of a manga. Not everywhere. But when it's needed, yeah, they push the drawing a little bit further. Doropu, the candy box. Setsuko, I think. Seita and Setsuko. Yeah, so many people die because of a few politicians going crazy, being so attached to their ideas, to their position, to their power. B-29. They were dropping like incendiary bombs over Japan. I think they did something similar in Vietnam also. They dropped many napalm bomb. This is their mom. They took too much time, so the bombs are dropping. More bombs. And they also have a fragmentation bomb here. More incendiary bombs. So this is also like war crimes, because they drop bombs on the indiscriminately. So nowadays, when Israel, if they bomb Gaza or Lebanon, they're also doing the same war crimes. Even they target some people they don't like, but they still strike civilian buildings and killing civilians. War is nasty. Of course, it's very naive to say things like that, but this is still true. They cannot resolve the conflict diplomatically, intelligently, so they becomes like a Neanderthal brain dinosaur. They fight and kill each other to be the boss or something. And they don't try to understand why the war exists, what actions they take, and what consequence it has, and why people want to destroy them. Like Israel, they don't respect the Palestinians. They don't give them the land and dignity for living, and then they create many enemies by not showing some compassion for others. Love thy neighbor, and then they wonder why everybody hates them. So they should try to look deeply to understand that there is an endless cycle of an eye for an eye thing. It has no end, no safety, no peace, no happiness following this path, In Japan also they follow very sad nationalistic way. They invaded Russia and China, Manchuria, Korea, Vietnam. They create and they even attack America in Pearl Harbor. And they created the seeds for retaliation and wars on their land, on their people. And in this movie, they show the craziness of a nationalistic people also. It's not too black and white. Hotaru no Haka, they show the ugliness of American bombings, but they show also the craziness of the Japanese banzai nationalistic craziness. The fanaticism of nationalism, populism, and usually this kind of strong nationalism, it leads to war in history. If you study history, you see nationalism, strong pride in one's country and superiority or something. It usually leads to war, and then war comes back home. Like Russia attack Ukraine, and then Ukraine defends itself and fight back Russia. And then Russia get the taste of what they did to Ukraine. They also have bombs, but Ukraine, they are much more civilized. They don't blow up civilian buildings. And now also Israel is bomb everybody, and now they don't have enough defense, so they also get more damage. They try to live in the illusion that they can have an iron dome that protects them from reality of their actions, but at some point there is no more defensive missile, and they get their buildings blown up just the same as they did to others, Humanity, they have to learn the expensive lessons sometimes to get some basic spiritual teaching of brotherhood, sisterhood, and living peacefully with others and respecting each other. My teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, he traveled in USA to call for the end of bombings and of the war in Vietnam. He met Martin Luther King, and he tried to talk to the president and politicians and public figures to try to make the call so that America will stop bombing like crazy Vietnam. And eventually the people in America, they protested, and it became so unpopular that America withdrew from Vietnam. You see this reality of war. Families being killed by bombs, house destroyed, livelihood, food shortages, family broken. And this also fuels more hatred, more violence, more desire for revenge. You see the children like that, they can be anywhere, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Ukraine, in Iran. So many wars going on because of a few crazy people or idiot like Trump, very stupid, Netanyahu, very evil, Putin, very evil, and they don't even do a good job at taking care of their country, you know. That's why I think education, people need to have a good education so they have more capacity to reflect, to think, to judge the character and the capacities of their leaders, so they elect better leaders with more wisdom, more IQ, more strategic capacities, and general understanding of the world. People elect populists, and because they are angry, they just want simple answers and simple solutions. They don't understand the complexity of reality, of economics, of how intricate things are, so they vote for people who give false solutions, unrealistic solutions. And then those idiots, when they are in power, they face reality, they cannot give the promises, then they try to look for an external enemy to divert the opinion. Imagine if you had to see your mom burn like this because of the bombs of another country falling on your country. You could blame your government for starting the war. You could blame the other country for dropping the bombs. Still just a child in losing their mother. My mother, she was born in 1941. She was born during the Second World War. She hid in the cave in Paris when the bombs were falling on Paris. She ran away in the subway with my grandparents, running away from Gestapo people, looking for people to send to the camps. My family, they are not Jewish, but the Gestapo, they just pick anybody they can, you know. So after that, my family, my grandparents, they took my mother and they did the exodus in the south of France, and they stay for a while in the south of France. And my mom, she had memories. She could recognize the kind of bombs to the sound of the way they drop. They make a different sound, and the planes also, they bring different bombs, so the sound of the plane also different. So that kind of thing that children they learn, sadly, when the war happens. They learn to recognize what kind of bomb is falling. This is a very deep trauma that stays in them. A lot of anxiety and fear. I can stay for the whole life after. When you experience a war as a child, you can be victim of a lot of anxiety, fear, or violence after the war for many years. So now they go visit the aunt. They lost their mom, so they have to take refuge. So they go to the countryside, a little bit similarly to my mom. You leave the city, the bombs, they fall more on the city, more probability of being killed living in a city than in a farm. I hope all these idiots, they will die soon or be in jail. Putin, Netanyahu, Trump, and all the politicians that push for wars and finding external enemy and stuff. It's sad, but I think sometimes we have to pray for the the death of some very bad people because it's the only way for things to get better. Or some kind of political downfall, that they don't get re-elected, or there is a coup, something, they don't have power anymore to do very bad things. The bath scene is very nice. Some moments of peace, of relaxation. And the fireflies. She has a nightmare, I think. See, the children sometimes they cannot express their trauma. Something is very broken, but they cannot express it. It comes through dreams or subconscious behavior, you know. Remember the daughter of the aunt and uncle? I think she works in the weapon factory. She helps to work for the army. So the Seita, the elder brother of Setsuko, he feel ashamed that he's just there and not contributing like the daughter for the army, for the country. So it's very complicated because during the war, if your country is at war and maybe you started the war, but the whole environment pushes you to feel like you belong to the group, and you have to support the war, even though it's the war that created all your problems. So like maybe some Iranian people now, they feel in this position that they feel pushed to support the regime and to feel a sense of national identity, but they don't like the regime for many of them. But there is a lot of pressure. They may even get imprisoned or executed, and the neighbor, they will tell on each other if someone is not behaved properly. And I think in Japan during Second World War also, and in Europe also, there was many stories like that. Like you try to survive, you try to take care of yourself, of your family, but you also have to be very careful of everything you do, everything you say, so you don't get stigmatized by the village, the neighborhood people. And it's very important for your safety if you want to survive, so you have to pretend, or you have to just uh, lower your head and try to go through whatever you need so you survive. And then later, after the war, you may be blamed or judged by other people, or it's very complicated. That's why the best is to avoid war, is to have people who have good education, good history lessons, make history lessons not just about chronological knowledge, but about understanding the root causes, the way the pattern of repetition of what kind of ideas and government and leaders and what it create. And you can study many cycles throughout antiquity, middle ages, the industrial revolution, and the 20th century. There is many repeating patterns of power and certain types of leaders, and the way they think, the way they view themselves, the way they view their country, their people, and the way they want to dominate or be the leaders of the region, and then they want to dominate the neighbor countries and so on. Or they are very greedy, they want to take hold of the resources of the neighbors. And all these repetitions of patterns, if people they can study, they can understand also the kind of a fake promises the populist politicians they do to get elected, and what they do after they get elected. It can teach people how to have better thinking and judging. For me, it was crazy to think that people they elect somebody like Trump, because it's like farmers and people, simple people in the USA, and how they can come to think like a billionaire, son of a billionaire, who grew up rich, real estate and TV reality show and party and star and all this kind of environment. How did they come to believe that this kind of character would represent them, would do something for them? That is the like ABC of populism, of demagogy or something. And I think it's about ignorance. People they don't have enough political knowledge, historical understanding, so they get easily fooled with simplistic messages, simplistic promises. And also the persona they get easily impressed by like the strong man. They usually this kind of persona type, you know, like the strong man that's gonna give back the pride for the country because they have no job, so they want the leader to give them back their dignity, their pride, and they swallow any unrealistic promises from these types of leaders, fake leaders, who usually they enrich themselves and they don't do anything for the people. You see throughout history and all over the world, usually these populist leaders, they steal everything they can for themselves and their family, and they don't make the country better. Very rare to have these types of populists who actually do something for their country. They have a memory. Seitai has a memory of before the war. Swims. Then from far away it seems like everything is okay. They go to the beach, take a break from reality. Remember the good times before the war. Maybe just a few months before the war, you know. And then everything turned upside down because of Japan attack Pearl Harbor and trigger America to attack them. Now he brings the kimono of his mother to make some money to contribute for the aunt and uncle family who feed them. You see, Setsuko, this is one of the subconscious response. She cannot express the loss of her mom, but through the nightmares she had at night, or seeing the kimono of her mother being taken away, it triggers the emotion of losing her mother. See? It's like he cannot also express himself. He has to be the strong elder brother. so he has to suppress his pain. The problem is that, you know, this kind of emotion of empathy, of normal human behavior, usually the kind of sociopath and crazy psychopath like Netanyahu, Putin, and Trump. Trump is more like a narcissist, but Putin and Netanyahu, they are maybe like psychopath or sociopath, something, and they cannot be touched by normal human emotions. They have some kind of broken mind and soul that cannot be touched anymore with the pain of others. They don't relate to the humanity anymore. So they can be so cold and kill millions of people and not be able to visualize the pain they create. See, now the aunt, she gave less and less food, and they start to feel like a burden, like some kind of guilt to just be there, to just be alive, to just survive this war. And Seita in the movie, his mistake is that his pride take over. Instead of swallowing his pride to stay with his auntie and survive, his pride pushes him to want to survive on his own, and that is the big mistake he makes during the war. See, Setsuko, she must feel very lonely. She doesn't have her mom anymore. So candy is the only symbol of sweetness left. And Oni-san, big brother, is still a ray of sunshine for her. Yeah, this famous image. It it shows on some posters in the 90s in magazines, I remember. Now they eat in the room. I think they feel a little bit, they can feel less guilty and feel less of a burden. They can be themselves. You see Setsuko, she's very small, but she's already trained to be proper. So she just release her feet from the seiza sitting position. See, the conditioning, it goes very deep. The way you sit, the way you look, the way you talk is something you can observe in yourself. The way you feel with other people, or the way you perceive yourself. You can learn a lot about yourself by observing your thoughts, your body, your feelings, the way you feel tense or stressed, or you feel a complex of inferiority or whatever, you know. Still some candy left, but not many. It's like takaramono, you know, like a treasure candies during the war. My mom, she also said like they had to go in the queue to get some like a flour, butter, eggs, like a very basic food supplies. So during the war there is many food shortages, people go hungry, they don't have access to water. This is terrible. That's why, you know, they say like these past few days, like if USA bomb civilian infrastructure in Iran, that would be a war crime, because without the electricity the hospital cannot function, the water pump cannot function, and people, they don't have access to clean water, to medical help, no electricity. Sometimes you need electricity for very vital instruments to keep healthy, and to cook food, to boil water, to pride is a very difficult obstacle during the war. The people, they don't want to be the loser, even if sometimes you lose, but you win, because your country is not destroyed, and your people can live in peace, and you can make peace treaties, and make after the peace treaties, then everybody wins. Everybody can rebuild their country on better foundations, and understand the reason why the war started, and how to like clean up the causes of war. But very complicated to for the leaders, for the politicians to see themselves as legitimate if they give in to the demands So it's complicated. It could be simple, but it's complicated. And now they start to want to live in the refuge because nobody judged them. They don't feel the pressure. And Seita, he start to feel like he cannot live with the peer pressure, the feeling of being a burden by his aunt, to have like passive aggressive remarks every day. So yeah, this is the moment they decide to live in the shelter, bomb shelter. But this is very big mistake, because he's just a child, you know, he's just a little boy. And from documentaries, it seems there were many children like that during the war, orphans who didn't have families and start to be abandoned children surviving on their own. So you need people who have a good heart to organize orphanage and groups to take care of orphan children during the war, so they don't end up alone like that, surviving on their own. Can be very dangerous. Maybe in Gaza many children like that, or in Ukraine also. In anywhere there is wars, some families are demolished, and the children, they have no parents, and if they don't have other families, relatives to take care of them, they can, if there is no state solution for children like that, then they can end up homeless children during the war. And so the aunt now, she doesn't feel very good, but she doesn't understand what she did, maybe what she said. She thought the remarks there, it's just like a daily little words that she doesn't understand the impact it has on the children. That's why also adults, they need to have a awareness about their language, not to hurt people, to have more skillful words. Now they have more fireflies. This is the iconic moment of the movie. Very poetic, but sad. Very, if you look into it, it's very sad. They are like the fireflies themselves, you know. And here, yeah, remember they also show the side of the nationalistic attitude of Japan with the navy and the military parade, like the Yamato or something, and going to war and thinking Japan is so strong and gonna conquer Asia and so on. And you see it's brainwashed with the military music and images, and then he comes back to reality, wondering about his father. You see, Oto-chan, doko de shite wa yaro. He's wondering where his father, if his father is still alive or something like that. And he also feel lonely, and he hug Setsuko, his little sister, but he feels so much pain, he squeezes her too much, so she pushed him away, and he's all alone with his like suppressed sadness. He has lost his mom, he doesn't know if his dad's still alive, and he has nobody to cry on the shoulder. He has to be the adult for his little sister, but nobody can be there for him. I read also the novel. There is the novel that the movie is based on the novel, and the novel is kind of short novel, and it's a little bit more rough. It's like a very straightforward journal of what happens, and it doesn't have the same poetry and emotion, and it's like a more like a brutal in your face reality. It's good, the novel, to read also, short, very short, just a few, maybe 2 hours or 3 hours to read or less. And see here, the emotion finally like bursts. The well is too full of sadness. The dam is like breaking. He sees when our mom is thrown into the bodies and burnt together with all the bodies. They don't have time to do proper burials, so they just threw the body together and burn it before it rots. And this is the fireflies who died after being caught. And Setsuko, she says something like innocent children's words, and it's bring Seita finally to have some tears from all his repressed experiences. Yeah, you see some kids, they They come and they find the hiding place. And this is the tombstone for the fireflies here. And they kind of don't understand. They are just children too, they don't understand. And this is when they start to lack food, they don't have food anymore. And the farmers, they can't help much, or they don't help much. And that's when he start to steal tomatoes, I think. Yeah. Yeah, stealing is very big deal in the Japanese culture. But they are starving. So they start to steal some food from the farmers who don't help them. So you see, like, if the farmer help them, maybe they don't steal. But because the farmers don't help them, they don't have the choice. They have to steal. So yeah, if you don't help the people, then people will have to do things that becomes a problem. But if you help them, then they don't have to do bad things. If you put them yourself in their shoes, you understand their difficulty, the suffering they feel. Then instead of looking at them like an enemy or stranger or something, you try to do something, even something little but positive, not negative, and you befriend each other instead of making enemies of each other. It's gonna fall in the water. But because they are children, they still find ways to have some fun. This is the strength of children. And they start to have malnutrition. They don't eat properly, so they start to have lack of vitamins and minerals and proteins. So he steals some corn, but he's getting caught. He want to feed his sister, want to find something for her to eat to get better. But he get caught, beaten. They come for the shelter and find more food. Now he begs for mercy, for understanding, but the farmer is angry and he even leave the little sister alone and take away. Like he could have at least, taken the little girl and the big brother, and so that the police can find a solution for them to take care of them. But he just ignored her, let the little child alone. So you see so many mistakes, misunderstanding, and suffering created. And the policeman here is talking strong to him, like, you beat him so bad, why you beat him so bad? And he's kind of like a nice cop. He brings back to reality the farmer, like, you just beat a child. That's what happened. He stole just a few vegetables and you beat him very bad. This is wrong. I could arrest you for that. And then the guy just dropped his charges and just go home. Yeah, she asked him, where does it hurt? And then he tries to steal, he lets her in the shelter, and when the bombs are falling, he goes into the dangerous areas to steal from the houses. So it's like very dangerous lifestyle he ends up having to do due to many conditions and his own decision to leave the auntie house. Yeah, so he steals from other people. But she's getting weaker and weaker. So he continues to try to steal stuff. And he's almost like cheering for the American planes bombing, because you see the twisted reality. Because of the plane he lost his mom, but now the war is so messed up and crazy that he can survive by stealing, thanks to the attacks of the American planes dropping the bombs on the city. So the mind gets so messed up with the war. Yeah, so she's so weak now. Like in Sudan, for many years, the children are starving because of the several groups fighting each other. There is a famine and people are killed in the villages, and the food gets stolen by the militias and things. There may be a memory before the war when they were younger. Yeah, he's trying to understand what happens to his father, because some soldier talk about something's happening. And now she's very weak. She took some pebbles and she's kind of pretending this is like onigiri or some food, but it's just stones. When he comes back with many things, but it comes so late, she's very weak. So he tried to feed her suica, I think, or watermelon. The pink big fleshy green melon. Difficult. Yeah, this is when you will cry. See what they have to experience. He has to burn his own little sister alone. And many stories also like that in the Sengoku Jidai, during the Nobunaga and Tokugawa and Ieyasu. They do have a civil war in Japan. There was many famines also, many people starving, dying, because the war, they create a lot of chaos and bad harvest or stealing of food for soldiers. Yeah, this is a tough one, but this is important to get a vaccination regularly about the horrible realities of war. So I hope we can all grow, learn. If you can do some donation to humanitarian causes, like for refugees or for people who don't have doctors or food. So sometimes I try to give a little bit, and but the root cause is what is most important to try to improve is how not to have a crazy politician doing wars, and politician may know how to deal with their neighbors more peacefully, more constructively. So let's pray that the world gets better soon, and see you in the next video.